I have found that when we start doing grid work in teams, in the physical with other human beings, it really amplifies what we're capable of, and everybody's channel expands. So if you're worried, like, when I go in somewhere, I'm not sure what to do, like I tune in and all I hear is crickets, try this experiment. Grab 2 buddies and go do the grid work and see what happens when you have that group effect. It is pretty magical. I will just tell you that right now. Hariya greetings and welcome to Activations with JJ. In today's episode, we will be diving into all things grid work, the hows, the whys, the whos, the wheres. Everything and anything that you could ever think of would be related to grid work. We will at least touch upon in this fun adventure over the next 30 minutes or so. So take out your notebooks if you're new to grid work, or even if you are not new to grid work, there might be some things that I talk about today that are new to you. And I'm excited because, as you can tell from the way I am bringing in the energy, this is one of my very favorite subjects. All right, let's dive in. So today, in addition to this information about grid work, I always call in all of our incredible teams, our families of light that are here to support us on this earth plane with this incredible ascension that we're doing collectively. This project is what I like to call it. So I'd like to take a quick trip down memory lane and share with you a little bit about my personal experience with grid work and how it's unfolded over the last few years. Now, I have always loved nature. I've always loved hiking in the mountains. I grew up by the forests, the lakes, the trees, and that has always been something I've been called to do. I've also always been quite psychic, able to connect to the energy of a place. And so I would go somewhere and I could absolutely feel like the trees were talking to me, the rocks were talking to me. Now, as I learned more and more about all of the different elementals, about all of our guides beyond the veil, there were more details that came into my channel because my knowledge expanded and I was able to tune in a way I had not been able to do before. When I first started doing grid work, it's because I was connecting with the ancestors of the land. And I would go on these hikes and I would immediately feel them. Now, this is, of course, because I was doing a lot of mediumship at that time. So I was connecting with not only the ancestors of the land, every client, I was connecting with their ancestors because we were doing work that was related to, genetic and hereditary karmic loops. So as I was walking in his place, I would immediately feel them. And if you're a medium, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're like, oh, somebody who can see us. And I always had encounters with beings of high vibration, and there was always a reason I could feel. Many of these times, I would actually visit places that I could sense I had been to before, like in past lives. So I was feeling a lot of lifetimes connected to the land, connected to this indigenous energy. Now, as time went by, I would go on these hikes and songs would start to come forward when my light language was activated. And I shared this a couple of weeks ago in the July monthly energy update. But when I first started channeling light language, it came as song most of the time. If you go back in my Instagram account to a couple of months ago in May, I was at Lake Tahoe and I did an Instagram live, and most of that Instagram live I was singing and I was showing you this is what happens when I connect to the land. All these songs just start coming forward. I don't record them most of the time. They just start coming. But if you ever go with me to an in-person event, we have a few coming up. We have our Mount Shasta Galactic Historians Conference. We have our Egypt experience, and then we have New Zealand. So for New Zealand, it's also Galactic Historians. And we have a 2-day and a 7-day option there. So if you ever go with me to any of these, you're going to hear me sing because that is a huge part of my life, is being able to bring through the song lines. But that's how my grid work started. I felt like I was channeling the frequencies of the land and the peoples that had been on that land, reactivating something. So that has been my experience with grid work. Now, as time went by, I actually learned from other people, other things to do, because I didn't know. I was just flying by the seat of my pants like I know some of you are. But time after time, I would learn that I would seed crystals and I would make crystal grids. This was not my natural inclination to do. And, I'll tell you about this in just a moment because, in my personal opinion, your body is all you need to be able to do grid work. But it is fun to bring all the accoutrements that, we bring our crystals and the stones and the water and all of the things. And they're really great ways to amplify and expand what we're doing with grid work. So if you are, again, new to grid work, whether you're new actually or not new to grid work, these are some basic foundational pieces of information that I've shared before, but I feel called to share again with regards to my approach to grid work. So first, let's talk about what it actually means. For one, I will be completely honest with you. I do not love the word work. I prefer the word play, but because it is a more universally accepted term, we do say grid work. In fact, you will notice that along with this video, you probably seen on my Instagram or in my emails that I just released a really fun course called Gridwork 101. It sounds like college, but it has a lot of play in it. My husband Michael and I decided that it was time to just lay the foundation for all the grid work we were doing. So it's available to the general public. And it is part of all of the bigger grid work projects that we do. So you might remember that when we did our UK Heart of Albion activation, we did both a virtual and in-person component. And again, what we found was that it was extremely important for those doing the work with us to all be on the same page so that when we stepped into the project, we had that foundational knowledge. That's why we created this Gridwork 101 course. So you can check out the link below. We have an early bird special going on right now. You will get to see us playing and sharing, and there's like little photo montages because Michael loves to share all of the incredible photos that he takes. But it will really help you to understand some of these principles that I'm talking about here in this brief podcast in more depth. So the basic foundation that I want to share with you is that in order to most effectively do grid work, it's important for us to remember that we need to be present and in our bodies. And as starseeds, sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge. So I always call in the earth ancestors that are there to help us be grounded, to help us be in our physicality. In addition to that, I also call in the star ancestors. Our star ancestors are there to help us access the higher frequencies that we are anchoring into the planet through our bodies. So we need the below and the above. We need the physical and the etheric planes to come together. We are the bridges. That's what we're doing when we do grid work. And so in order to be that energy node connection point bridge, we've got to be in our bodies. So that's number one. Be in our physical body, be fully embodied and fully present in our bodies when we do grid work. That's easy. Well, it could be easy, but the principle makes sense, right? It's not like I'm using some kind of crazy jargon. So take note of that and think about that when you go do grid work. Number two, I always call in a field of 0 point energy. Now, if you're not familiar with 0 point energy or you're not used to utilizing 0 point energy, a secondary energy that's really helpful is called the field of quantum flow. In a nutshell, what these two types of energy do is they allow us to play and do the grid work in outside of time and space. So we're not bound by time, we're not bound by space. So if we're working with some kind of timeline that was either before or in the future, we can do all that in this other type of energy field, in this 0 point or quantum flow energy. A lot of times, if you're operating from just the current space and place and time that you're in, there's stuff that we're missing. And so this allows us to do like a 360-degree sort of grid work without any limitations to time and space. It's also allowing the grid work that you do to be multidimensional and affect all the generations, all of humanity, all of the galaxy, any places. It's like that little ripple effect, right? It's that little ripple effect. Sometimes you probably heard of the butterfly effect. It's like that. And it's really kind of hard, I think, sometimes for us to comprehend that what we're doing could make a difference. But I can tell you right now, I've had so much validation, so many witnesses that what we do when we do grid work really, truly does make a difference. And I can tell you with a lot of confidence that that is accurate. So again, making sure that you're calling in that field of quantum flow or that 0 point energy, that would be number 2. Now, I already talked about calling in the earth ancestors and the star ancestors, but step number 3 could essentially be seen as calling in the teams. Obviously, your higher self, number 1, your heart, your higher self, your body, that's your number 1 part of your team. Now, any other guides, family of light, elementals that you call in, that's your bonus, right? Because they're going to be there to help you do some things that might be easier in a group setting. Also, if you're doing grid work, I highly recommend that you also embody that physically. So you're calling in a team of 3 or more in the physical and in the etheric, which means you might want to go get a buddy or 2 to do grid work. I have found that when we start doing grid work in teams, in the physical with other human beings, it really amplifies what we're capable of and everybody's channel expands. So if you're worried, like, when I go in somewhere, I'm not sure what to do, like I tune in and all I hear is crickets, try this experiment. Grab 2 buddies and go do the grid work and see what happens when you have that group effect. It is pretty magical. I will just tell you that right now. It's pretty magical. And if you've had experience with that, feel free to share in the comments of this YouTube video what's happened when you've been able to do it in teams. We also do that virtually as part of our Starseed community. So if you're not already part of this incredible network of starseeds, of grid workers, we're speaking light language, we're working on our physical bodies, we're making it through these ascension symptoms together, we're feeling validated, we're co-creating, then what are you waiting for? It's right here in the link below. You can join that Starseed community. You can just take it for a test drive for a month. Seriously, I know some of you are like, well, I've already done a community and I don't know, feeling a little indecisive. Test drive our Starseed community for 1 month and see what happens. We've been in there for over 1.5 years, and I can tell you and witness to you that what we're able to do because we're a team has absolutely taken quantum leaps and bounds. Because what we used to be able to do compared to what we can do now, every time we have a grid work meeting, I'm like, what did we just do? And you can even go back as part of the community. You get to go back in the portal and you get to listen to all those playbacks. There are hours and hours and hours of content where you can dive in. I mean, that's the best education, right? Like just witnessing it being done. So in these meetings, I will take you on a guided grid work journey and you can experience all of this. And then we go into breakout rooms. So anyway, okay, that's the Starseed community. I just wanted to mention that. In a nutshell, it's step number 3 is to call in the teams in the physical and in the etheric planes. Call in your teams. So now that we have those foundational pieces established, and I love that there's 3 because that's one of my favorite numbers, I want to just kind of weave together just different stories and some guidance for you with regards to how you approach grid work and how it can work in your everyday life. So we're going to talk about the most, like I said, everyday ways that you can do grid work, all the way to the most expanded, like full-on travel, across the world type stuff. So let me just share with you 2 or 3 ways that I do that in my own town, in my own neighborhood. First of all, it's really super important for us to be in a state of gratitude when we are doing grid work. And I always make sure to leave an offering or just even a frequency of thank you through light language to all of the beautiful elementals, trees, the physical realm around me. And so you'll often find me like just touching a tree. I'll go on a hike and I'll just be like, oh, that rock wants me to touch it. And I'll just put my hand on the rock. I'll put my hand on the tree. Sometimes just that ripple effect of you saying thank you to the earth and to these different elementals is really, really powerful and a way that you can do grid work. You can even weave that in with people who aren't fully on board with grid work because you just be like, oh, look, everybody, look at this cool rock. And then you place your hand there and you're like, oh, look at this rock. And you can tune in your own self. But if everybody just touches the rock, like we're exchanging frequencies there, that rock even holds codes. So grid work is not just you giving to the land or doing something. It's also about you receiving. And I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Gridwork is about connection. It's about you connecting. And sometimes you're connecting to receive, and sometimes you're connecting to give. So as you will notice from these different suggestions and these real life examples, I tell you, it's all about connection. So connecting physically, connecting and touching. Another way that I do grid work all of the time is when I'm commuting. Yes, I do grid work in my car, and I have to give a shout out to my friend Crystal from Honest Aliens. You might have seen her in my community. She does lots of grid play herself, but she was always talking about how she would just drive and do grid work, driving, and she would be in meetings and she would be driving. So every time I'm commuting or just driving anywhere around LA, there's lots of driving to be had around LA. I'm in my car. I'm always feeling just a sense of connecting with the different, almost like I'm going through portals. So there's a lot of canyons and mountains here in LA, hills. And so when I'm going through those, I'm like just feeling that sense of what's there. Almost like sometimes I'm even going in different dimensions, and I will flow different energies, usually through spoken light language. But if you're not super comfortable with light language, I've actually had the ping that you can just play music. You can roll down your windows or not, but playing music on your car stereos is a really good way to do that. I also find that I channel really well while I'm driving. So I'll turn on my audio recording and I'll just put it next to me and I'll drive and I'll just be downloading lots and lots of things. So just a suggestion to try that out too. Another way that I do grid work in my everyday life is by connecting with the sky around me. So I'll be walking into a store, like say I'm in the parking lot, and I'll just look at the clouds because there are so many messages in the clouds that can direct you, that can help you basically get better at tuning into what grid work is to be done. There are lots of sky dragons there, air dragons, and there are always cloaked ships when there's clouds in the sky. A lot of times I see them. We are absolutely in a time period where there are lots of ships, so we don't always see them, but they're cloaked. But if you turn on your other type of vision, you can 100% connect with them. I am working and operating in those crystalline frequencies. So these are benevolent interdimensionals who are here to serve us and to assist us and to help Gaia raise the frequency so that we can transition into a new octave. But that's a really fun thing to do because a lot of times we're not looking up, we're looking down. So look up, just look around you, look up, whether you're hiking at the park, on a walk, look up and see what happens. Also in the nighttime, as you know, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen in the nighttime if you are just looking for it. Great ways to grid. So those are some of the more basic ways to grid. Now, when I'm traveling somewhere, I have like this little kit of crystals. I learned this from my friend Mariana, who is very connected to Andaras. So I now have, because of her, I have lots of Andara crystals, and I have my rainbow set. And I bring that rainbow set with me as like a little portable altar for me to be able to do little ceremonies with. And I also bring water. I have a little tiny flask that I got from Chalice Well, so I will put different kinds of water in there. It goes through airport security just fine because it's a little baby version. And I use water. One of the places that I tend to feel called, is one of my connections as a water priestess, is wherever the fresh water and the salt water meet. And sometimes those places are not very pretty and sometimes they're stinky, but I always go there, and I will oftentimes have a crystal that I will throw into that brackish water and help activate it. I can list so many places that I've been to over the last couple of years that are just that, in New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii, all the different places. And it's fun. And gosh, Merlin's Cave, honestly, in the UK, has a waterfall. It's going straight into the ocean. So all of these places that we're activating where the water meets, the fresh water meets the salt water. Now that's an example of my personal template that I'm holding as a water priestess. This is why you will hear me talk over and over and over again. What is your role as a grid worker? Now, some of you might say, well, I have no clue and I've tried to tune in and I don't know. Then just choose one. That's why I'm giving you examples, is so that you can tune in and say, well, what do you like to do? It's not just like, what do the powers that be think I should be doing for grid work? We're not really in that timeline anymore. We're in the timeline where we're sovereign beings, we're empowered, and we get to choose. What would your inner child love to do with grid work? play with butterflies, play with birds, go to museums. You can do lots of grid work in museums. I do grid work in museums all the time. I go to public places where there are lots of people, and I do grid work there just by carrying my frequency there, just through my intention. You can even toss crystals here and there when you're doing that. I like to carry small pieces of rose quartz. That's the divine feminine, like the Venusian frequencies that I hold. I like to use those to sprinkle divine feminine everywhere. I also bring that Herkimer, those little baby Herkimer diamonds that you can get. I use those in helping to reactivate the crystalline grids. If you have ties to Lemuria, listen carefully. You are invited to begin to activate parts of the crystalline grid. I know I talk about that all the time. Some of you have contracts with the crystalline grid. Some of you have contracts with the golden grid, the dragon ley lines, the rainbow grids. There are many different grids, which are energy fields. Energy fields. That's what a grid is. It is a field of energy that has connection points. Again, it's all about connection. So not only are we working with these layers of grids that are in, around, and through Gaia, and they're not always like you see in a picture, where it's just like a net around the globe. These grids flow in, around, and everywhere. Some of you are connected to the mycelium grids. If you are a mycelium person, maybe you also enjoy that medicine, you're probably going to want to do grid work with that. You can carry medicines with you and sprinkle them in different parts of the grid. I have a beautiful friend who uses cacao, and she makes offerings to the trees with cacao wherever she goes. And that's a wonderful, wonderful way to grid. So everybody kind of has their own style, their own unique contribution. If you are stuck on what that is, I have a couple of suggestions. One, go with a group of people, whether virtually or in person, and see what they do to give you ideas. That's why we have our Nexus. That's why we have our Gridwork one-on-one that we just created, just to give you those ideas. My husband, Michael, is doing virtual Gridwork every month in small groups as well, in addition to the in-person Gridwork that he does and that I do. So there's so many opportunities for you to learn. It's the best way to do it, is just to learn by observing and witnessing what other people are doing to give you those ideas. I'm also very excited to announce that in the next couple of months, I will be creating a Gridwork Oracle deck. I've been feeling this coming for so long, and I'm like, I've just got to do this. So a Gridwork Oracle deck is on its way. One of the things that I visualized was taking an Oracle deck like a Gridwork one themed and pulling those cards to help you warm up to how to do grid work intuitively, to give you those foundational principles and those ideas. So yes, you can be getting excited about that, because I've been wanting to do an Oracle deck forever, and it just came, the download came really strong. And so in the next few months, you'll see that. Just make sure you're subscribed to my emails and all the things, and you'll get more information about it. But those are just a few ideas on how you can weave grid work into your life, whether it's a small way or a big way. Let's review, because I always feel like it's important to kind of close the loop. So remembering to be present and fully embodied when you do grid work, calling in those earth ancestors, those star ancestors, so you can fully embody and be that bridge that you're meant to be. Number 2, calling in that field of quantum flow or that 0 point energy, so that the grid work you do can be effective across time, space, dimensions, realities, anywhere and everywhere. And number 3, make it a team effort. Whether it's a physical team, an etheric team, make it a team effort. When we co-create and do grid work, what we do, our offerings, our calibrations for Gaia, whatever it is, super amplified when we do it that way. So to finish up today's episode, I thought it would be fun to connect with some of my favorite guides when I go out and do grid work, and that is the elementals. So I'll be bringing through some light language transmissions from them, designed to help you calibrate and better connect with their frequency, so you can enlist them to assist you with grid work when you are out in the wild. So we're going to begin with the dragons, some of my favorites. Dragons are wonderful for almost anything. They're like your multi-purpose tool, with regards to grid work. You can call them in for anything. There are air dragons, there are earth dragons, there are water dragons. So let's just tune in, take a deep breath, and tune into their frequency. Angarai totonshi andarai kiamara. Itaraknai tiriko shandri pukarandare ikiandaraya. These are inner earth dragons, and they're reminding us not to forget about working in the inner earth grids. Kiana Karaya, they said that we are welcome to assist them or to call in their assistance anytime we would like to. Taking a deep breath, transitioning now, connecting with, I feel the fairies coming through, and I know a lot of you listening are very connected to the fairies. I love their assistance with very delicate types of grid work. So I'm feeling like etheric, crystalline fairy energies, like connected to, I would say, the air. They feel like they're connected to the etheric fields, the etheric plane. They're saying they're weavers. They're also very, very helpful when it comes to weaving frequencies and weaving parts of the grid. Patching parts of the grid is what I'm hearing. And they're telling you can move your hands, like you can move your hands and really feel into their energy a little bit better. So some kind of kinesthetic stuff going on here, which is always fun for your inner child. Beautiful. Just gently transitioning now. We'll do one more group of elementals. As I tune in, I'm definitely feeling water beings. I feel like a collective. It feels like whales and jellyfish and dolphins, but also like mer beings, water dragons. So we'll see what that frequency turns out to sound like here. Unga anando rim dari ininaro oiterini u shanraka darai anakai u garakanaya tuko shanara u yamagara no yana. I'm very much feeling the belly. I'm feeling the belly of Gaia, but like just the belly, like the navel. Yando go yamdara andururi yanadaraya. So it seems like they're saying whenever like a purging of an area needs to happen, that you can call on us to help that whatever part of the grid it is that needs that purging, we can assist. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of dark aquamarine, like teal color. And they're saying, don't forget about the water elementals that are in the deep depths of the ocean, because they have their role as well. They are very good at transmuting energy. And my mind is going back to a grid work we did once in the South China Sea. It's called the Dragon Hole, I believe. It's like the deepest spot in the ocean. And that is almost like where you flush energy down. It's like a wormhole to a cosmic transmutation space, transfer station. Because we are doing that right now. We're helping the planet to detox in a way and to purge some of these denser energies that are no longer harmonized with the crystalline grids that are coming online. There's a lot there. I love it. Okay, gently releasing that one and bringing it to closure. Wow, my friends, so many adventures to be had in grid work. I feel over the next 3 to 4 years, more and more people will come to understand what grid work is. That's why I am creating this grid work one-on-one course that I talked about. Again, you can find out more about it through the link down below. Michael and I had a really fun time creating the course, and I know you're going to enjoy it. It is really going to give you a solid foundation when it comes to you doing grid work, whether it's in your neighborhood or across the world. And I just want to express my love and gratitude to you for being willing to serve Gaia in this way, for being willing to serve the collective, the elementals, all parts of the land. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, I am sending you so much love and reminding you that I am you and you are me and we are we. Until next time, my friends.